again. I'm Carrie and I'm owner at Classic Cottage Art and Antiques. Tonight we're going to talk about Dixie Belle Paint Company's Howdy Do hemp seed oil. And we'll get to that in just a minute, but first I want to show you how I stain with paint. I've got a few projects I've been working on and I thought, I might as well do them with you guys. I'm working on home decor items today and I thought I'd just share the process with you. So I'm starting out with these little rounds. My goal is I'm going to make this. And I won't get to finish the whole process with you tonight, but I just want to show you some of the other steps that get me to where I want to be. So first of all, I'm starting out with one of these little rounds from, I don't know, Walmart or somewhere. And they're inexpensive, but they also come with this thing in it. Now this is just an extra little tip I'm going to throw in there for you. When you take this out, hopefully I can do it without hurting myself again. I'm dangerous with tools sometimes. What happens is it leaves a hole in your wood. I can do it. If you can do it, if you can pull it straight up, you're good. It's a pair of pliers, but look at the hole that leaves in there. Now, you could say I could paint on this side, but this side sometimes a sticker gets stuck, which I don't know why they do that. But anyway, it's got a hole. But here's a nifty little trick that I found that works. I don't know where I heard this at, but this has been sitting for a couple hours with a wet paper towel, and it has all but taken the holes out. And once I paint over that, it won't be a big indentation right there. Normally I would let it dry, but it actually, and anytime you have a dent in wood, if you do that same trick, if you like a paper towel or something on it for a little while, a fairly damp paper towel, what it'll do is it'll raise the grain and come back up and take the dent out of your wood, which is kind of a cool trick. But tonight what I thought I would do is show you how I stain with paint. Now here are some samples that I've done just to show you that you can stain with any Dixie Belle paint color. This is Antebellum blue. It's a really pretty gray-green bluish, and this is Bunker Hill blue. Certainly you could paint it solid, but I kind of like seeing the grain through there. But tonight I'm going to paint, because I like the back. I like to finish the back of my projects, so I'm going to stain with coffee bean color paint. And I'm going to show you what happened on a larger project. The way I stain with paint is, and I take these cheap sponge brush things, cut them up or use them whole, and this one's fairly damp now, and I like, the key is to have it fairly damp, and I'm just going to stick it down in my paint. And Dixie Belle certainly has two other actual stain products. We have a Voodoo Gel Stain, which is a water-based stain, and we also have No Pain Gel Stain, which is oil-based. But if I'm in a pinch and I don't have those on hand, this is a really quick way to do it. I mean, so really, and the key is to have it fairly watered down so that you can get the stain look. And I'm pressing down pretty hard, and my sponge is not soppy wet, but it's fairly wet. So I'm going to get a little bit more. And basically, I mean, this is like, how easy is this? I mean, but I do like to finish the backs of my pieces. And if if my sponge gets a little too dry, I'm going to give it a spritz with my mister bottle, and it's going to move a lot smoother for me. So, and basically it's just going down in the grain so that I can see the grain. Coffee bean's a really good color for this if you want a natural looking stain color. But like I said, you can do it with the Antebellum blue on this side, or the Bunker Hill blue, which is cool. I mean, that's pretty much easy peasy as it can be, right? If you get too much on there, wipe it back. No big deal. And just like that, I've got a project that's ready, and this wasn't all the way dry yet. What I could do also is put a little bit of Dixie mud in there if I thought the holes were too deep. But once it dries and it completely dries, the holes should really be barely noticeable. But just like that, I've stained a piece of wood with paint. And that's probably no surprise to many of you, but I think it's just a fun way to do this. So, over here. Same thing, I'll do this on here. I'm going to show you now, this might come out a different color because it's a different type of wood. Just like on any type of wood, it's going to stain differently. So this time I'm going to actually kind of mix two colors together, because sometimes on certain woods, it comes out a little darker than I would like. Oops, this is Dixie Belle's pine cone. And I'm going to use this bigger sponge. Or if you have one of these blue sponges that we sell, I cut it in half. These work well too. As a matter of fact, that one's smaller for my hand right now. Let's do that. I'm just going to get it wet. Actually quite wet. A little too wet on there. And then I'm just going to take and I'm going to put the pine cone. Now this is obviously going to be a lot lighter, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create different, I guess, layers. I can even do that. See, and if I get it too much like paint, then I can do a little bit of water and we're good. Now, let me move on. So you can see the pine cone gives you more of a kind of almost a mapley color versus, what did I do with it? The coffee bean. But what I like to do is I like to mix them together, because this is really not the color that I want for the background for my project. And this is what's happened. I've done it on this giant one, which this is the other side of this one. We're actually going to use the Howdy Doody hemp seed oil on, which I'll tell you about in just a second. So, and this time I'm going to keep the same sponge. Well, actually, maybe not, because I don't want to stick it in my paint. This time I'm actually going to spray my project. There we go. I'm going to stain over this pine cone color, which kind of doesn't make it so deep, which is the goal that I'm going for. If you wanted to, you could mix the pine cone and the coffee bean on your sponge at the same time. Also, remember, just like staining, you're going to want to go with the grain of the wood. It does weird stuff if you don't do that. But just like if you're staining with an oil-based stain or something, go with the grain of the wood. But can you see where it's got the different colorations? If I had just done the one color, it would have been just one. It would have been too dark for what I was going for. So it's kind of cool to use two different colors to create a variation there. And I mean, I'm scrubbing fairly hard because my sponge is almost dry here. And the cool thing about this project too, this process, if you don't get your wood too wet, it's going to actually dry pretty quick. But just like that, it's got a much different tone, see, than the one where we did just plain coffee bean. This one's okay for plain coffee bean, but I wanted this different, I don't know, tonality, is that the right word? We'll call it that. And because I'm not too worried, this is the back of my project, I'm not too worried about it, I'm going to flip it over. This is my project that I'm working on, and I did get it a little darker than I wanted, but that's okay. It'll be fine. Now we're going to talk about the Howdy Do hemp seed oil from Dixie Belle Paint Company. So I'm going to read it to you because I don't use it that often, but it's a really cool product. This is the reason I'm using it on this project. This is actually going to be definitely a tray, but it might also be a Lazy Susan. Haven't quite decided yet. And I'm actually going to get the paint off my hands so I don't transfer it where I don't want it. So I did my little staining like I did on the back, and then I just did a stencil on my Cricut machine. And now I'm ready to do the Howdy Do hemp seed oil. So I want to make sure it's completely dry. Now normally I don't like to do it over the light colors, but I think it'll be okay in this case. This is actually food safe. So you could use it on butcher block. You can use it you know, on tabletops that you're going to eat off of or whatever. And that's what that's the one purpose I'm using for, is because it is food safe. So you start with a clean, dry surface, and I'm going to apply it with this we've got these neat little applicator pads that I sell here at the store from the Dixie Belle has. It's just a little applicator pad. Now, this is an oil-based product right here. You can use it over this water-based paint, no problem. However, you're not going to want to paint over it until it's completely cured. with water-based paint, obviously, because oil and water just don't mix. So I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at the bottle says 2 to 4 coats, but you really only need 1 coat. And cure time, it says here, is 2 days. This is also a product that they tell us that is, I can't remember if it's cold pressed or whatever, but it means that it's got a long shelf life, does not need to be refrigerated, which is cool because I don't want to have to remember where my hemp seed oil is. So basically all you do, I'm going to just kind of shake it up just gently. I don't want to have any bubbles or anything. My surface is completely dry. I'm making sure that it didn't get wet when I was doing what I was doing. And I'm going to try not to splatter it because I'm very famous for splattering these kinds of tops. This is also, if you are painting with Dixie Belle paint and you're painting dark colors, particularly caviar, coffee bean, or any of those, this is a good alternative to gator hide or the clear coats, because it doesn't show streaks like those products will. So it's a good alternative to that. It also is water resistant when it has cured, so that's a good thing. So I am just going to put the tiniest little bit, and I really don't need hardly any at all. This pad is going to absorb more than I want. I like to go with the grain on things. I don't think you have to, but I'm going to go with the grain. And look at that. Can you see? Just like that, it's making it beautiful. They don't recommend a lot of this for light colors, and I'm trying to remember what the other retailer said, that it may yellow, but this little bit I'm not too worried about. But just like that, I'm doing this. Now what's going to happen is this is going to, and see, I just didn't reapply anymore. It's going right on. And you're going to hear it scraping because that's the stencil it's going over, because I didn't sand my stencil down. Oops. But it is going to, the wood is going to absorb however much it needs. So I'll show you in just a minute. I'm going to just do this, and I will go around and do the edges. Although I didn't sand this very smooth, I'm going to have to use a sponge or something for that. So just like that, I have it on there. Now you see where it's shiny and kind of pooling? No big deal. Now I'm going to use the back side of my pad because I have a very small project. If you're using a furniture, you might want to get a new pad. But I'm just going to wipe off the excess. Just like that. I'm going to wipe off the excess. This is like one of the simplest top coats type things you can do. It's crazy cool. And just like that, I'm done. However, I can't use this yet. I'm going to get all the excess off that I see right now. So what happens is the wood absorbs what it wants to, or what it needs, however dry it is. And then, there you go. You can see how shiny it is right now. And that's perfect. And so what's going to happen is the wood's going to absorb it, and you may have to come back the next day. I usually wait overnight and wipe it again, because what's going to happen is it's going to absorb what it wants, and what it doesn't want is going to sit on the top. So you might have to come back a couple of times and wipe it back before it's completely finished absorbing. But other than that, that's pretty much all there is to it. You can apply this with a brush. I've done it with an old chip brush before. Just make sure you don't use your good synthetic brushes with this, unless you remember which is which. You don't want to. And actually, the synthetic brushes are more for water-based products anyways. I would use a natural bristle brush if you were going to. But yeah, so basically that's it. And it looks like a blobby mess kind of now, but that's because it's absorbing at different rates. And that's pretty much all there is to it, guys. So if you have any questions, just let me know. This is like the quickest project ever, just paint or stain. And the cool thing about, like I was talking about staining with the paint, I did this earlier when we just started, and it's dry already. And it takes hardly any time to dry. And there's no smell whatsoever. The oil-based stains we have don't have smell either, but I mean the oil-based do, but the water-based do not. So if you don't have stain on hand, or you've got this great idea you want to stain something, grab your coffee bean paint, or in this case, this has coffee bean and pine cone paint pine cone color paint. Ooh. Or go completely crazy and use any other color of Dixie Belle paint. This is Bunker Hill Blue, and this is Antebellum Blue. I just picked these because they're a deep tone, so you can really see very well. And it's a fun project. Beautifully finished project with your hemp seed oil, and there you go. Just a tip too. Did you see how hard my paint was to close and open? You see that mess? You can prevent that by putting petroleum jelly around your rim before you close it. Just a tip. I always forget, but if you can remember, do that and you won't have this problem with your lids. Really appreciate you watching, and I will try to come back next week with another fun tip. And happy painting. Bye.